I'm Joe from As the Joe Flies.
And I'm Leslie from Trips with Tykes.
And welcome back to Disney Deciphered. So one of our loyal Patreon subscribers, Evelyn, reached out and asked us to do an Ask Me Anything or Ask Us Anything, as it were. And because, as we've mentioned a few times, we're both traveling in June, but at separate times, we thought this would be a great time to do a little bit of a mailbag. So we put a question out to our Patreon Facebook group and also got a bunch of questions from Evelyn as well. Leslie, we do have a new Patreon subscriber to thank. And yeah, this is a good time to talk about what is Patreon.
Yes, so today we're thanking new Patreon supporter Jeremy. If you want to support the podcast as well, you can go to patreon.com/Disney Deciphered, and we will give you all sorts of fun bonuses, trip reports, unfiltered episodes, ad-free listening, and access to our Facebook group. So thanks so much to everybody for supporting.
Yes. So, Evelyn, thank you again for the idea. Since it was your idea, we'll start with your question. So, one of Evelyn's questions was, what country do you wish could be added to the World Showcase? So I thought this was a pretty fun one. We've heard in the past that Brazil was high on Disney's list. Spain was, I think, either an original or going to be an addition. So let's take Brazil and Spain off the board, Leslie. What's a country you'd love to see added to the World Showcase at Epcot?
So I think this is getting complicated by the existence and the expansion of Animal Kingdom, like practically speaking, because like now Africa is an Animal Kingdom and soon the tropical Americas will be an Animal Kingdom. So I kind of think that Epcot will remain other parts of the world. So sort of in keeping with that division, I think India would be a great addition to World Showcase. I mean, it's a country that's now become a real superpower in our lifetime and really grown since the time of sort of World Showcase being developed. The food is great, so it would be a great addition to food in the park. And it kind of covers like a region of the world that's not really touched on. So that would be my vote. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, that's a great call. I love that. I would probably vote for that, but just in the interest of coming up with something else. I don't know if you know, Leslie, we do travel in travel circles. I feel like Portugal is all the rage right now. And if we think about Epcot World Showcase's kind of original vision of being a tourism advertisement for the country, I feel like Portugal would fit right in right now. Spain adjacent, I guess, very close to Morocco as well, so not doing too well in terms of geographical diversity, but I just think Portugal is just so hot right now. It would be a great addition. Although maybe by the time they're done building it, it's probably oversaturated with tourists. I mean, already is getting there.
Yeah, fair enough. There's so many good ones that are on my list. I'll have to give a shout out, an honorable mention to Greece. I would love for Greece to have its own pavilion as well. And I think at some point in time, that was under consideration. Like maybe as the first expansion, I definitely have seen that listed. But again, good food, unique history, things like that to share.
Yeah, and there's definitely at least that one spot as you kind of make your way around the left side where the kids just play the drums and you can get like a corn on the cob or whatever. Nothing is really going on over in that section. All right, next question comes from Michelle A. And that is, Leslie, an interesting one. Which land do you prefer to go to first in Magic Kingdom?
I'm always starting in Fantasyland, and I think that is because of my Disneyland bias a little bit, because you have to start in Fantasyland at Disneyland because none of the rides or very few of the rides are on Genie Plus. So you're going to want to rope drop that if you're going to want to do the dark rides. So I think that's just sort of like built into like my brain is like you go first to Fantasyland. But also, I mean, it's just classic Disney, right? It's the castle. It's all of these old school Disney movie IPs. So it just feels like it's the core of Magic Kingdom to me. So I'm almost always headed there. Certainly if I'm going in the morning, I'm headed there. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I'm a Tomorrowland type of person just because I like it's just more compact and I feel like it just feels like I'm getting more done in the morning because I can start at Buzz Lightyear. The line's going to be short. I can go on People Mover if I want to ride Astro Orbiter. And a lot of this is rope drop, minimizing lines based. Now, of course, there's Tron there as well if I get an early virtual queue or a lightning lane for that. In terms of strategy, we've mentioned this before on the podcast, but just a shout out to the fact that Adventureland does not open during the extra half hour that on-site hotel guests get. So if you're coming from off-site, or if you're on-site but you just kind of want to wander over towards the rope and get started when Magic Kingdom opens, Jungle Cruise is a great place to start Adventureland, or go up Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, which we've mentioned more this month than we have in the past year, but those are good places to start. Adjacent to that, Michelle also asked favorite quick service restaurants in each park. I'm pretty sure both of us prefer Satuli Canteen at Animal Kingdom. Got that one right.
Yes,
Hollywood
yes,
Studio,
100%.
yeah, and then Hollywood Studios. I don't know. There's like, just take your pick. They're all the same to me. I typically go to Backlot Express just because it's a little bit quieter since it is towards the back of the park, and the chicken fingers are chicken fingers no matter where you go. I don't know. Are there any quick service restaurants at Hollywood Studios that I'm missing? I just never want to deal with Woody's Lunchbox just because of the crowds.
Well, in the heat, that's not good. I like the food there best, but in the heat, it's just, yeah, there's nowhere to sit and it's hot and all that good stuff. Docking Bay 7 is actually pretty solid. I'm a little bit over Star Wars Galaxy's Edge food, but in terms, objectively speaking, like a lot of good space, air conditioning, decent food. So I guess that's good. But I'm usually eating table service in Hollywood Studios.
Same. All right, pop quiz, Leslie. What is my favorite quick service at Epcot?
Oh, geez. Hey, I'm gonna kick myself. What is it?
Japan Katsura Grill. Come on. You knew
Oh,
that.
yeah. Well, that was gonna be mine. So
Yeah, you know that.
okay.
I knew it was yours. How did you not know it was mine, Leslie?
I was
Gosh,
trying to think
podcasting
outside the
together.
box.
Podcasting. No, nothing outside of the. None of my favorite stuff is outside of the box when it comes to quick service. And then for me at Magic Kingdom, it's Columbia Harbor House. I've said many times that you can get somewhat healthy food there. You can get something green there. I think it's green beans currently. It used to be broccoli, which was even better for my kids. What about you, Leslie? Are you a Casey's Corner type person?
No, I mean, I'm usually eating table service because I'm going to Skipper Canteen, but you introduced me to Sleepy Hollow, so I'm gonna have to give that a little vote for the chicken and waffle sandwich. So I guess if I need a quick snack, that's where I'm headed.
Yes, very good. And I would like to reiterate, I bring this up whenever I can. Casey's Corner, enjoy the hot dogs. Too much bread in the bun. Can never finish the bread. Too much. It's too non-Atkins for me. For those of you of a certain age who know what diet that is. All right, next is from longtime listener, longtime supporter, and also previous guest D. She has a great question here. Is there an Adventures by Disney trip that is a dream of yours to do? If so, which one? Leslie, I found this question pretty interesting because I was thinking about Adventures by Disney trips that I wouldn't necessarily replicate on my own. I don't know how you think about it when you think about Adventures by Disney. I know we're in a little bit of a competition to see who gets on one first.
I know. Well, that's totally how I think about Adventures by Disney. Like, I'm not going to book them for, say, a national parks trip in the US or for a Europe trip because I can do those myself. So I have two in mind that I am definitely eyeing. And I think you know this, Joe, because you're my travel agent. So I think I've probably mentioned it to you. But so I'll let you take first pick and then I'll reveal my two.
All right, so the one that I have been looking at fairly seriously the last couple of years is a Christmas markets river cruise, either on the Danube or the Seine. You can do both, leaning more towards the Danube just because it fits better with dates. I'm not sure if we'll actually get to do it. That looks like a lot of fun. And although you can do a Christmas markets river cruise with any of the, Viking does their own, and Ama Waterways, I think, does their own without Disney, and that's who Disney partners with. I think that would be a fun way to experience and see what ABD brings to the table. That's on my list. The other one I would go but I don't think I would, I'd have to go with Friends, is the Southern California Disneyland one where you get to see the studios and get, a lot of history, Disney nerd stuff, but I could never get my family to go on that one. So that's not actually on my realistic list.
All right, that's the friend one we're going on together because same with my family. They would not be interested in that, but I would adore it. My son has enough time when I make him spend several hours in the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco. That's enough for him. But my two Adventures by Disney trips that I've been eyeing for a very long time, one would be Peru, like doing Machu Picchu with Disney. Again, just because of the logistics, all the bookings, having somebody handle that would be super, super valuable. And then also sort of devising a trek and an itinerary that kids could do. Like I wouldn't want to get in over my head with some of the more adventure travel companies there. And then the other one is Egypt. I definitely want to go to Egypt at some point in time. Again, just with sort of the safety and the logistics factors, I think Disney would grease the wheels and it would be worth paying the premium to head to Egypt with them.
In terms of the national park ones, yes, I'm sure it'd be great to go with Disney, but this is a non-Disney shout out. One tour company that I have been looking at, but my kids aren't old enough yet to truly appreciate it, but a friend of mine pointed this out to me. I think they did, I can't remember if it was, Yellowstone plus Glacier or Yellowstone plus Grand Tetons or something like that. But the tour operator is called Backroads, and it's a little bit more luxury. So it's like close to ABD prices, which is why I'm bringing it up here, even though it's not a Disney thing. But the really cool thing is it's a lot about exploring the park by bike, and they will kind of drop you off in one section of the park with your bike, and you can get e-bikes if you're over 16, which I think is even better for people who are getting lazy like yourself and me, or myself. I'll just speak for myself. But you get to experience the park on the bikes. That kind of helps with the traffic situation and all that, and you get to, it's called Backroads. That's the tour company's name. But I think you get to see more off the beaten path stuff, and then you get picked up at, you go point to point. You don't have to go there and back. And so I'm really interested in doing something like that in the future for our national parks.
Yeah, there are a couple of good sort of higher end tour companies for national parks, and there's one that some friends of mine have been on, and the name escapes me at the moment, but I'll find it and share it in our Patreon group. But yeah, there are other providers that you can do, and then of course there's the doing it on the cheap yourself. You can cobble together. I'm going this summer to Yellowstone with my family, and I booked pretty much everything on my own, and then we're hiring a private guide for 2 of the days to show us around the parks.
Definitely. Although, like I've mentioned, those Glacier Park driving car passes, stressful, worse than virtual queue. All right. Next question comes from Sheila A. Best non-character breakfast in the parks. And I can make it easier for you, Leslie. Throw in Disneyland if you want. I will throw a shout out quick service for Ronto Roasters. The Ronto wraps are very good. But, let's talk about table service too. What are some non-character options that you really like?
I never eat breakfast in the parks. This is a hard question for me. And at Disney, I could do Disneyland. And they're really, other than Plaza Inn, I mean, there's really not, I don't think there are any table service restaurants open for breakfast at Disneyland. So it's all quick service. So Disneyland at DCA, I'm always going to Pim Test Kitchen. And I think I probably mentioned that before. That's really the best quick service restaurant in Avengers Campus. Got, all the usual eggs and bacon and carbs for breakfast. So I'm always headed there. I'm also eating the breakfast burrito at Galactic Grill, and I never eat at Galactic Grill otherwise. It's usually pretty awful. But those are the two at Disneyland. But I cannot remember the last time I've eaten breakfast in the parks at Walt Disney World. I'm usually like grabbing something on the go, or I'm hitting, like, say, if I'm staying at a value resort, I'm going to the food court there to grab something quick before I go to the parks. What about you?
I'm glad you brought Galactic Grill up, because I was going to remind you that you brought, I think it's Becca's tip, right? And we talked about it
Mindy's tip.
Oh, Mindy's tip, excuse me. So you got too many people you work with, Leslie. I apologize, Mindy. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to remind you to bring that up, and I couldn't remember what that place was called. I have eaten at Trattoria Al Forno and Ale and Compass for breakfast. They're just pretty standard breakfasts. Excuse me. The one nice thing about table service breakfasts at Walt Disney World, the ones in the hotels, is they're going to feel cheaper. I've said this before, but they don't feel as overpriced as the character meals. Oh, Steakhouse 71 is very good for breakfast if you're staying at the Contemporary. But again, like you, I'm not really eating breakfast if I am really focused on park touring. We did it a lot this last trip because I was with my extended family and we were rolling in at like 10, 11 o'clock. But if I'm trying to get there at 8:30 or 9, I'm not stopping to eat breakfast in the morning. So Ronto Roasters on the go is very fast. That works. Otherwise, we're just eating whatever we can eat. So great question. All right. Aaron G., your favorite ride in each park, including Disneyland and California Adventure, for both of you. Let's go through this quickly. Let's go in order of park creation. So we'll start with Disneyland.
Okay, Pirates of the Caribbean. You?
Oh, at Disneyland. What's my favorite at Disneyland? I
Not
don't
Matterhorn.
Yeah. I think at Disneyland for me, it's Big Thunder Mountain. I just like that one better. If I was to pick a unique, we both love Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. That's good. I don't know. Disneyland, nothing stands out to me. It's just all kind of A tier, solid. For me, Disneyland is more about the vibe. So that's what we got at Disneyland. Favorite attraction at Magic Kingdom, Leslie?
Ooh, this is tough, but I'm gonna go with Jungle Cruise because I love Jungle Cruise and they've plussed it up at Walt Disney World with like the longer scenes. And so, yeah, that's a favorite of mine. What about you?
I am going to go with People Mover since that is my favorite attraction in all of the Disney parks. And then I'll shout out Tron. I really do like Tron quite a bit. As I've said, it being short is a feature, not a bug for me. And every time I go on that, I come off smiling. So I really like Tron. That's really been a great addition to the park. All right, Epcot is tough for me because I think objectively Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is the best attraction there, but it's probably not my favorite attraction just because I can't ride it over and over again. You know what, Leslie? I'm going to go with Living with the Land at Epcot. It's the one I always want to go on just to relax.
I love it. I love it. It's such a Joe pick. Well, I mean, I'm tempted to go with something fairly similar. I mean, I agree. Guardians is the best ride, but in terms of sentimentality, I'm gonna go with Spaceship Earth. I mean, going into the giant ball, and I love that it's so dated. Still, it reminds me of the Epcot of my youth.
Yeah, I was thinking about adding Spaceship Earth as well. So that's a good shout there. Okay, so I think it's Hollywood Studios next. That was early 90s, right? Hollywood Studios. Yeah, I didn't bring up Rise of the Resistance for Disneyland because I just think of it more as a Hollywood Studios thing because it opened first at Hollywood Studios. So, yeah, I'll go with Rise of the Resistance at Hollywood Studios despite all of its many many, 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 many issues.
Okay, I mean, great pick. I think it's a great ride. Agree, but I'm gonna go with something a little different. I'll go with Slinky Dog Dash because it's such a fun family coaster. Love the theming, and at some point, I will be able to get my child on it.
Shout out Alien Swirling Saucers, as always. Okay, so DCA opened in 2001 and Animal Kingdom was 2003. So I think DCA is next. I think I got that right.
Yeah, I think that's right. I remember I went to DCA the first year that it opened, and with my husband. So it was right up when we finished college. So I remember the timing well.
Wow,
So
time out. Embarrassing. DCA, got it. Animal Kingdom, 5 years off. I thought that we recently celebrated the 20th anniversary, which is why I said 2003. Nope, that was the 25th anniversary. So it opened on Earth Day, 1998. So pause
oh,
on
we
the
gotta go.
DCA. Yeah,
Okay.
we gotta go. We gotta go to Animal Kingdom. I'm guessing it's Flight of Passage for you.
Yeah, it's so good. There's nothing better in that park. What about you?
Yeah, Flight of Passage is definitely mine. I think I just want to give a special shout out for Kali River Rapids being my least favorite attraction, possibly in all of the Disney parks, but that people are riding regularly. Flight of Passage would be mine. Obviously, shout out for Kilimanjaro Safaris for those of you who don't like thrill rides. But yeah, Flight of Passage is my favorite attraction at Animal Kingdom for sure. Now, let's finish things up with DCA. I'm going to go with, even though this is like my least favorite thrill attraction style, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. It's just so much fun. Again, just kind of like Tron, I find myself smiling from ear to ear when I get off this attraction. And so that's it for me at DCA.
It's great. It's definitely in my top two or three, but I'm gonna go with Radiator Springs Racers because it doesn't get any better. Like combination dark ride, a little bit of thrills at the end, just great immersive theming in Cars Land. The first immersive land, Cars Land.
Yes, excellent, excellent land. Definitely get out to DCA if you haven't been there yet. All right, just a couple more. Here's a little bit more of an existential one, Leslie, and we may need to pause the recording as we think about this. But Andy K says, by the way, shout out happy anniversary, Andy. What is one realistic Disney park announcement that would both surprise you and most move the needle in terms of overall satisfaction? This is a tough one. You know what I think would really surprise me, Leslie, but I think would do a lot. I do not think this is going to happen, but there's more smoke about this. Opening a fifth gate, I think it would really surprise me if they announced that anytime in the next 10 years. I would be surprised if they announced a fifth gate, but I think that would do quite a bit for guest satisfaction. I think it would answer a lot of the things people have been complaining about.
See, that's interesting because to me, I would think, gosh, there's 3 gates that need more first. So I don't know if that would satisfy me because I just like make these other parks more of a full day park. And obviously we're getting there, I think, with Animal Kingdom, and we're going to add to Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. But like, there's just more that needs to be done in all of the parks. And I feel like a fifth gate might divide the resources too much and weaken all of the parks. But for me, I mean, something that they really could do that I think would increase guest satisfaction would be to bring back the Magical Express. And it's funny because I didn't use it that much because I found it took more time than just taking an Uber or a Lyft. But I think for so many guests, having that handled for them by Disney and having it be free made them feel like they were getting something, plussed up with their Disney vacation. And it would just go a long way to sort of restoring that service culture that I think, the bean counters have now come in and are counting everything. But if they included something, that would raise the bar for a lot of guests, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a great shout out. You bring up a good point. Disney fans manage to complain about everything. So I do think that a fifth gate would make people happier overall, but not without a lot of consternation online in the decade it would take to build it or whatever. I would be shocked if they brought Magical Express back, but I think you're right, Leslie. That would be like an instant win. And, I know after the Star Cruiser video, a lot of people were talking about how you can't even, or no, I think Jenny Nicholson, after the Star Cruiser video, she also tweeted out about how you can't get your stuff that you buy sent back to your hotel anymore. That's something I could see coming back and improving guest satisfaction. But Magical Express is one of those things that it feels like it's small and probably not a huge dent in Disney's budget. But I think in terms of overall vibes, it would improve the vibes greatly. So you win that round, Leslie, for sure.
Well, speaking of extra gates, I want that third gate or whatever this Disneyland Forward is going to be in California. That's what I really want in California, is to plus up the entire resort. And I guess it's looking more and more possible, but I'll believe it when I see it.
If we can take a little aside, is there even room for a third gate at California?
There is. People talk for years about it going where the Toy Story parking lot is, but I guess this Disneyland Forward is going to be like more an expansion of both parks is what they're talking about. It's all a little amorphous right now. I mean, I'd be happy with that too, just to be clear. Like, to me, that's sort of a third gate, even if it's within the 2 current existing parks. So just making this entire resort bigger because people want it to be a destination resort that you go to for something approaching a week, more like Disney World, and it's just not there yet.
Just follow up, I do agree that the current parks at Walt Disney World in Florida do need work. Okay, 2 questions left. This next one is for me, although a little bit for you too, Leslie, just because of your Facebook groups. And we're ending where we started. This is from Evelyn. She asks, as a travel agent, what are some trends you've been seeing lately among your clients? Hotels they book, length of stay, budget, etc. What has surprised you? I know Evelyn wants to take a little peek behind the curtain. I will say that by function of a lot of clients coming to me from this podcast, it's a certain type of person who has listened to this podcast and finds me from that. And as you can imagine, Leslie, these types of guests, they want longer trips. Usually they have a little bit bigger of a budget to play with, but not always. So there have not been any huge surprises to me. I do know that a lot of travel agents will get clients who will be like, hey, I'm going to go to Disney World for one day. And we can't really do anything. We can't even buy 1 day tickets for clients if we wanted to. So I haven't seen any huge trends. One thing that I've been seeing is that more and more people are wanting to try out Disney Cruise Line. So that's a trend that I've been seeing, especially as the parks have been getting a lot more expensive. And I think the other trend that I've seen is I thought there was going to be a drop off in interest. And I think there's been a drop off in interest in going to Disney overall, perhaps across the travel industry. But I have a steady supply of clients and people are still wanting to go to Disney. The reason why I know it's dropped off across the industry is because, there are still rooms on sale for this summer, Leslie, which was not true last year.
Yeah, and their ticket deals at Disneyland, which,
Oh
for
my gosh, I thought
everybody.
about going to Disneyland. I thought I bought I bought those tickets for a client and I was like, "Wait, am I reading this right? It's $249 for a 3-day ticket? Like that's crazy."
It's crazy, and I don't really get it, honestly. Like, Disneyland, I mean, yes, there have been a couple of slow days, but, like, on average, it's not slow, and they can always fill the parks with Magic Key holders and locals. I think it's odd, and I think it's gonna make Disneyland more crowded than it should and needs to be, and so I'm kinda staying away.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I was thinking I actually looked at the calendar and was like, "Can I take one kid and just squeeze a trip in?" Cuz the kids ticket, the Monday through Thursday ticket is $149 for 3 days and they don't have tax either. I mean, it's $50 a day for a kid who's not a Southern California resident. We have not seen that in a long time. So, I definitely think that deals are going to keep coming for the next year or two for Disney and, we'll see how that goes. Do not think, by the way, that we're going to see any deals for Disney Cruise Line or anything like that. It's been very, very popular. That is a very large trend. All right, last question from Evelyn. This is kind of a fun one, Leslie. As families that go to Disney often, how do you explain or characterize the frequency of trips for your kids since most normal people don't do that? I haven't solved this yet, Leslie. Have you?
Well, I mean, I will say I go to Disney a lot. My kids don't go to Disney an inordinate amount. I mean, we go to Disneyland a fair amount because it's close, and I would say that's part of the culture here in California. Like, I have friends in the Bay Area who go more often to Disneyland than I do, and they are not travel agents, they are not in the travel industry, they just are Magic Key holders who love going. But, I mean, I guess the bigger problem I have is that we travel more than normal people, like whether it be Disney or, internationally or other vacations. Like we could go to Hawaii a ton. So I'm just constantly stressing to my kids that this is what I do for work. And that's why we're going as much as we're going. And I think they're getting that as they're older. And, we also do try to stay in regular accommodations as much as possible. Like, yes, sometimes we splurge and stay at the one-bedroom villa in Aulani, but a lot of times we're staying at a Best Western in Middle America. So, try to keep it real for the kids, and sometimes they're happy with that, right? The joke is my daughter's favorite breakfast was at I think a Hampton Inn in Ukiah, California. She was younger, but it was like a nice hot breakfast. It was great.
Yeah, I mean the kids really don't care. My kid's favorite place to go is Grandma's house in New Jersey. With my oldest daughter, she is definitely at the point where she's like, I don't need to go to Disney World right now. I am starting like I don't think we're gonna go back to Disney World as a family until maybe 2025. But they do understand that it's part of my job and they do enjoy going. My wife is the hardest to convince. They also know it's not normal. Like they don't really talk about it at school. They don't talk about like where they went. They don't, they just say, "Oh, we were out of town or we were traveling." Same thing with you. We travel quite a bit. We were in Taiwan this year. We're going to Yellowstone as well. And I think that is a little bit less normal, but I think my kids they really love traveling and that's just kind of part of their personality. They know that's part of the family culture and they understand that. And they always, if they're embarrassed about traveling, they can always fall back on saying that their dad's in the travel business and he's just dragging them along. So that's what we're going with. I will say in terms of merging these last two questions together, an interesting trend is my kids want to go on Disney cruises more than they want to go to Disney World right now. So, they're right there
Same.
with the travel trends.
Yeah, no, same. Disney Cruise is hot in our family as well. Got a couple booked coming up, and I think we actually may go on one or two of them. But I will say, Joe, I did message you a few days ago, and I said my teenager mentioned that for her graduation trip, she wants to stay in an overwater bungalow in the Maldives. I mean, she said it tongue in cheek, but she would be happy if we did that. So she does have some expensive travel tastes. I was like, yeah, I'd like to stay in one too, but you gonna pay for it?
Yeah. So to answer your question, Evelyn, we have failed at keeping our children grounded. That is the bottom line there. All right, well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers again for your support, whether you sent in a question or not. We really appreciate it. And I don't think we got to all of them, but we got to quite a few. This was a lot of fun. Leslie, we'll have to do this again sometime, and maybe we'll open it up to the maybe we'll open the conversation up to the audience at large. But yes, Leslie, where can people read about your thoughts about your kids who are so out of touch with reality because they're traveling all the time?
Tripswithtykes.com and at Trips with Tykes everywhere on social media. Where can folks find you, Joe?
You can find me at AsJoeFlies on social media, Joseph Chung at travelmation.net if you're looking to plan a trip. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate all our listeners, and thanks once again to our patrons. And other than that, thank you, Leslie, for taking the time to talk to me, and I will see you buying the biggest piggy jar possible to pay for that Maldives trip.
Thanks, Joe.